Hello, everybody, and today we're going to be playing The Bind of the New World again. So we're just going to continue where we left off with the Doctor. Uh, anyways, I know that I kind of just fell off the face of the earth again for another month. Uh, scheduling can be a little weird at times. Gotta fit a bunch of different things in. So sorry that my last few streams haven't happened like at all. But I'm gonna try my best to keep this one consistent. I've tried to choose a time slot where the least amount of things should be happening. So hopefully that'll be okay. But anyways, yeah, let's just hop right back into it. So we've just showed up to the doctor's office. We're early today. We probably have something to ask, but I actually forget. So if you want to remember what happened last time, you can go check out my VODs that I upload over on my YouTube channel, by the same name as my Twitch. Shilling done, let's get right back into it. You're here rather early today. If you had come any earlier, the doors to the hospital might have still been locked. Dr. Eugen's nagging tone shattered in an instant. The good mood I'd been carrying with me the whole morning. And yet you ask me to come in around this time every day. If you don't like stopping by in the morning, you can always make time in the afternoon. I don't care. That wouldn't really fit my schedule. Why? Then I wouldn't be able to make it to the clubhouse by lunch. Oh, you like the place that much? I tried not to remember who had told me to join the club in the first place. Speaking of liking, you sure seem excited about something. Ah, you've got a hot date, don't you? You're the one who told me to take her around the city. Still, boy, I had no idea you'd actually be able to pull it off. Went better than you expected, huh? Wow, that sure was a loaded question. Self-gratifying much? A little. But I mean, hey, if you're right, then simply you just gotta say you're right. Haha, first. Don't... No, please don't... don't do this. Don't say that in my stream. No, don't make it a YouTube's comment section all over again. Or any comment section for that matter. Why does everyone seem so fixated on saying first? I don't get it. Anyways, we're just talking to the hot doctor lady about our terminal depression. I don't know how depression can be terminal, but like... You can't stop me? I will stop you right now. I'll throw hands with you in the parking lot or something. I don't know. Throw hands with chat. Look how fast you've grown. So young and lively. I just wish she would let me get to it. You've really shown a marked improvement. Huh? When I saw you at the start of this month, you looked like you already had one foot in the grave. Like always. Damn, my boy just got burned alive. Like, my man is charred. God, I hate myself for saying anyways. And now I don't? You can answer that better than I can. To some extent, you almost look like a perfectly normal guy. This doctor, like, damn. Insult me. Nah, I'm kidding. To some extent, then to some extent I don't. Don't take it the wrong way. I just meant that you're starting to look like a normal high school student. You're starting to look a little more human. To be fair, if you've ever seen the MC for this game, they look like they're like about to collapse over and die. I can like, maybe I can pull up a picture. Maybe not, because that'll take me directly to my Twitch stream producer. I don't want to show that off. You think? One single change was all it took. A person just needed a single lifeline. Just one person to support them, to help them turn their life around. It was enough to change the good doctor's mind. I must have done quite the 180. My boy is healing. He is ready to reintegrate into society. Just she was one to tease, but never to lie. Like, can you give me 10 seconds on rundown on what's happening? Okay, so basically, main character. Okay, so this takes place in the future. Basically, everything has like holograms and stuff that people can see with like implants in their eyes, which sounds really nasty. Don't want to think about having surgery in my eyes to put stuff in there, but basically, main character can't get the surgery for medical reasons, so he can't see any of the like virtual world. And there are glasses that let people like him see into it, but when he puts them on, he gets like weird computer static and like a big headache. And this is the doctor that's basically just like making sure he's doing okay, not doing too bad, because he doesn't have access to more than like half of the features of reality, which sounds pretty bad. So yeah, and then so basically everyone dresses up in like very basic bland clothing because they can just wear holograms. But then he can see one girl wearing like normal clothes, and he just develops a big crush on her. And basically, yeah, that's all that's happened so far. And now he's a part of her art club, and they're making art, and he's just talking into his doctor to like catch up on events, that type of thing. And if you want to see any of the old VODs, they are up on my YouTube channel. Anyways, I had changed quite a lot since meeting every time I have to pronounce one of these names, I immediately feel like I'm gonna mess it up and cry. I had changed quite a lot since meeting Chohyun. The thought actually excited me for some reason. Okay, I guess there's just no... Okay, yeah, we're fading to black. As was becoming habit, Chohyun and I met up at the clubhouse around lunchtime. Hello. Oh, hi. Chohyun was trying out a new look. Seeing her dressed in that white blouse jogged my memory, helping me remember that it was the weekend, not a school day. Right, you're wearing that because it's Saturday. Since you brought it up, how often do you have to skip class to forget something as simple as that? She was one to talk. Besides, you're dressed differently today, too. What's so weird about what I'm wearing? I was actually wearing the same hologram suit I wore every day, but I had changed the appearance for the weekend. Still. It's just, I guess this is the first time we've seen each other in anything besides our school uniforms. True. Anyway, let's start with a bite to eat. Yeah? Where would you like to go? I figured it would take too long for us to pick a place, so I just packed us a lunch again. The last time... Oh, I keep hitting the right mouse button and that just makes the UI disappear. The last time we tried going out to eat, we had wandered from place to place for quite some time. Well, not having to pick a place for lunch was a weight off of my chest. So what's the plan for today? Just like the day before, we got a seat in front of the clubhouse and munched on some sandwiches. We're just going to take a little tour of the city. You told me that yesterday. I want details. Give me the information. I gotta know. I gotta get that full itinerary. Like, point form notes on every single place we're going. I gotta know, like, what we looking at. What, like, the history of the area is. I gotta know what type of materials were used to construct the buildings. We're just going for a walk. Around the city? Yeah. Chohyun tilted her head slightly to the side, still not seeing what I was getting at. This is like... we going to Detroit. We gonna get shot. This is a joke. Well, I mean, partially not a joke. There's a lot of gunshots in Detroit. I've been there before. Basically, Chohyun had started the Classical Arts Club in order to satisfy these classical sensibilities that she felt had mostly disappeared from modern society. She couldn't seem to figure out how a walk through the city was going to be able to achieve that goal. I wasn't one to talk. I hadn't gotten Dr. Eugen's point at first either, if I was being honest. How come? We're just going to awaken these classical sensibilities you keep going on about. Are you sure you're not just making all this up as you go? No, way better. No way. It's better than any of your half-baked ideas. Damn. And it wasn't my idea anyways. It was Dr. Eugen's. Explain then. Where to start? I stuffed the rest of the sandwich in my mouth and brushed off the crumbs off my fingers. Well, people a long time ago, they used to go on these long walks, right? Maybe we could try that out. Our own trip? My man's nervous. Ah, you want to go on a trip? Honestly, I was kind of making things up as I went along, but her likening it to a trip gave me an idea. Sure. We just needed to dress my story up right. Just like a hologram covering up an old stone to make it look like a lump of gold. That sounds like fraud. I was a composer, writing background music for someone else's movie. A trip. What a great idea. You've helped me see the light, Mr. Vice President. Oh yeah, he's the vice president of the art club, and one of 2 members. She flashed a delighted little smile. It was all quite amazing. The girl who had seemed so cold and detached from the world at first was showing such a wide variety of unexpected emotions as we sat close together, talking things over. I had no idea how we had come to meet each other, but I didn't care much with how well the things were going. I was even starting to lose sight of today's mission in my flurry of emotions, but I don't care about that either. Great, let's look at it like a trip then. A tour of the city. Let's look at the sights we see each and every day from a new perspective. Then we might see things we've never noticed before. Like how I was able to see things differently from everyone else in this world. What would Cho Hyun saw if she could say if she could see oh, I can't speak words. Say if she could see the perspective of the city from the perspective of the blind. Just the thought of that was enough to make me squirm with anticipation, though I couldn't figure out why. What a perfectly splendid idea. I feel like the idea of going on a trip has been a particularly human experience throughout history. I mean, the word trip was normally used to describe people traveling from one place to another for a bit of adventure. Could you quit giving examples that predate the Middle Ages? Damn. No respect for the ancient crusades being called trips. It was true that Shohyun's paintings and the ones she'd modeled them after had a more modern subject matter to them. While she kept going on about her classical sensibilities, it did seem like she was still trapped by her more modern sensibilities. Maybe more like blind sensibilities? Like blindness? Like the blind of the new world? The hit game that I am playing right now. Sag women these days don't appreciate marching all the way to the Holy Land. True. I mean, hey, I'd march to the Holy Land with you, but like, it's on a whole nother continent, so it's kind of hard to get there. The way she wanted to see the world was closer than she ever could have imagined. Trip, adventure, they're basically the same thing these days. Because they're both pretty much impossible to pull off. This says a lot about society. Cho Hyun nodded, seeming to understand my point. Despite the development of transportation technology, the concept of going on a trip hardly existed in modern times. Just like the data, formed into holograms, was everywhere for people to see, the whole world's data was right there at the modern person's fingertips. Since the system was entirely visual anyways, it was so much easier for someone to visit a place optically rather than physically. Despite all of the concepts humans had come up with, they had still never discovered anything faster than light itself. Now incomprehensible amounts of data were being transferred around at that exact speed, much faster than any human was able to travel. It was savage to think of a world without all that data. The data was like a living, breathing, and tangible thing, a tangible object in the modern world. This was a world with the holographic theme parks dressed up like travel destinations. It was a world with holographic conferences instead of business trips. It was such a rarity for people to travel long distances, whether it be their own 2 feet or some mechanical marvel. Of course, transportation inside of the city limits hadn't grown that much faster. The speed of the various means of transportation within the city seemed to be capped by the automated systems that controlled them all and all the physical limitations of the passengers. But transportation from city to city has improved by leaps and bounds. Yet the ease of transportation served to eliminate the meaning and significance of going on such trips. These days, the only trace of the desire to travel left in society existed in VR adventure experiences. Damn, bro. No one even wants to go out for like a walk anymore. That's tragic. They were a true modern marvel, not limited to mere holograms, but able to recreate an experience using all 5 senses. Have you ever tried out one of those VR experiences? A few times. But to me, those experiences felt much less real than some of the old movies and documentaries I had seen. Without the electron corneas to translate the experience into physical sensations, the sunglasses could not do nothing but give me a visual peek into another culture. I was told the difference was like night and day. I really liked those experiences when I was little. Maybe I should have scoured those experiences a little more in search of my classical sensibilities. Well, it doesn't seem like a real trip is out of the question for it does seem like a real trip is out of the question for most people. They wouldn't even consider the possibility of going on one. It's like this new prejudice against travel. To be fair, if you could access everything from where you lived, I guess there isn't much need to go somewhere else. So eh. Seriously, I've never once thought about leaving the city. I've never really given much thought to what's outside the city either. The cities of the modern age were perfectly constructed gardens of humanity. You see, that sounds like words you'd hear in a dystopian society. That just sounds like you're describing a dystopia. A perfectly constructed garden of humanity, like, sounds like some bad stuff's happening there. Because of that, people simply had no reason or desire to ever leave. Whether it be for work, trade, or leisure. Leisure? Leisure. Literally 1984. Maybe true. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't read 1984. I should probably read it. I haven't read any old books yet. Well, I've read nope, can't think of any. Maybe I'm a part of the problem. Uh, Whether it be for work, trade, or leisure, there was simply no reason to go to a new city for any of that when it was all so close. In the modern age, it was quite rare for people to move away from where they were born and raised. There was no reason to leave when utopia was all around you, even though it felt more like an inescapable swamp to me. What kind of world do you think is hiding behind that wall? You could always rent out a few more VR experiences and find out, no? It would be faster than trying to walk there. Those experiences won't do a thing to satisfy my want for something classical. You're going to leave the city then? You think that would bring me one step closer to that painting? Oh yeah, by the way, so basically, there was a painting that was like the school building, but like without all of the holograms that was like painted by someone. And this girl saw that painting and got like inspired by it and wanted to like learn more about perspective and stuff, and that's why she got into art. Yada yada. That's basically what happened. Uh, True. Wait, did I even read the last part? I didn't actually check. I don't think the artist ever left the city either. He or she was a student after all. Okay, I hadn't read it. Maybe it was all the excitement that was building for our little trip. But Shohyun seemed to be overflowing with curiosity. We finished up and packed everything back into the lunchbox. That was really good. Thank you. So you're buying dinner then? No such thing as a free lunch. Uh, I couldn't complain with her filling my belly like she was. If only dinner were as good as her lunches. Bro, just learn how to cook too. Then you get like premium lunch and premium dinner. Like double down. With everything packed up, we headed over to the place where the school grounds ended and the mountain trail began. A path we had been eyeing for quite some time. It really does connect to that little mountain trail after all. I messed up the voices. I'm sad. I guess so. Why don't they just open the path up? Why do they have to hide it like this? Well, thanks to the drones that Shohyun had ordered around, the path was completely clear all the way up to the hill and over to the trail. Taking a new path down. This really is a trip, isn't it? Is this satisfying your classical sensibilities yet? This word has been thrown around a lot. Like a lot. I've been satisfying them like crazy ever since I ran into you. You want to cut it out with the heavy-handed compliments? I don't know what this boy's talking about. Like, I would kill for some good compliments. Like, should I? I never know when I'm sounding a little bit odd. One of the rare times when Shohyun was embarrassed. It wasn't that big a deal, though. It looked like the path from the school met up with the other trail about halfway up the mountain. As we got closer, I could see the path fork in two, the way up the small mountain and the way down. It was quite easy to tell which way was which. Ah, there's a little sign here. I couldn't see anything of the sort. Must have been a hologram. Ah, don't pass by something so important. I messed up what? Words hard speaking. I'm trying to read too fast, and I keep forgetting which one's. I must have gone straight through the hologram on accident. Shohyun's laughter had a hint of annoyance to it. She must have wanted to read what it had to say. You really do go through holograms way too easily, don't you? I thought there might be a metal post or something inside this one. There was nothing but inside the wall back at the school. I figured this one would be similar. I guess that makes a little bit of sense. Chohyun seemed to accept my words as truth because she carefully swiped her hand through the sign, then chased after me. By the way, what do you think they just abandoned that other path like that? The answer to that question was right in front of your nose. That hologram I passed by then. I didn't take the time to read it. You're the type of person who always turns off the context videos, huh? Context videos. I can remember explanation videos flashing up now and again to explain the things around me during my time with the sunglasses, but I had actually turned off that function. I don't like all those words flying this way and that. Are you sure you aren't a time traveler? Well, I mean, like, if I'm supposed to be putting myself in the MC's shoes as a self-insert, then I guess I am, because this is the future. But that's probably not the point. Chohyun looked like she was fed up with my nonsense. It's the mountain trail. I guess too many hikers were getting turned around, heading down toward the school instead. They must have decided to just close off the path. Could they really call putting up a few holograms closing off a path? Considering how Chohyun had just smacked her head on thin air again, yeah, that actually might have been sufficient. Maybe they thought the sign wasn't good enough, so they decided to put up a barrier in front of the school too. I guess there were a few too many people like you who didn't stop to read the notice. Well, I had a guess at why they had done it. A bunch of hikers constantly showing up on school grounds could cause quite a commotion. Yeah, no, just some random person like walking up every few like hours, just being like, hey, what's good? I'm here now." That would probably be very distracting. A bunch of could cause quite a commotion. Schools weren't exactly places that welcome a bunch of strangers in with open arms. That wasn't very good for the safety of students. Yeah, no, you don't just want like a kid to be kidnapped beyond the hologram wall, never to be seen again. That would suck. Sure there were security drones going this way and that, but it must have gotten bad enough to elicit the closure of the path from both sides. But if it had really gotten that serious, why not put up a physical barrier instead of a holographic one? The mountain view is quite beautiful. It is. A broken down machine would have more life in its voice. Chohyun shot me an intense glare. It looked like she was trying to shoot electricity out of her eyes. It must have been quite the beautiful sight for some. We had already been passed by a few climbers headed for the summit. The government officials in charge of the area would never dream of dressing the place up in ugly holograms. They had probably created quite the view. But there was a limit to how much I could appreciate. It must have been hard for them to maintain all of the trees and brush because here and there they'd replaced a few of the natural trees with mechanical ones. The silver shine of the artificial rods stood in stark contrast with the natural greens and browns. That's weird looking. That's like, I don't know how to even describe that. If I saw that, I would think like something's about to go down. Like, I don't know, I'm about to be turned into stone by tree Medusa. They were both fulfilling all the same purposes, cleaning the air and holding the soil together to prevent erosion and landslides. Still, I preferred the unpruned, messy natural trees to the artificial chrome of the metal ones. Yeah, I can see why. Those look very, intimidating. It was hard to think about her bizarre classical sensibilities when the mechanical devices in their hologram coatings were intertwined with nature to this extent. I suddenly remembered this documentary I'd seen, where all kinds of bugs were crawling along a tree branch. Weirdly fair assumption, TBH. Just, it be like that sometimes. Could there be little bug drones crawling all around us right now? Oh, I don't like that thought. Ugh. Ugh. Little bug drones. Ugh. What's wrong? You look a little blue around the gill. A, a little blue around. There's no way that's a saying. There's no way that's a saying, right? One second. I need to look this up. Blue around the gills. Why? Look ill or nauseated. The expression describes someone who's in need of fresh air because he or she looks sick or unwell and possibly wants to throw up. It is a temporary state of being and never a terminal illness. Why? Why do we call it that? Why is that a saying? Anyways. I suddenly regret letting this one thought play out in my mind just now. What thought? Trees just naturally pop out of the ground, right? Sounds about right. So naturally, organisms crawl around in that soil too. Organisms? Animals, creatures. You know the stuff. I've seen a few of my little friends scurrying about. I'm not talking about animals like that. They're whatever. What's the problem then? What about bugs and insects? Bugs? Ugh. See, she gets it. Bugs are. Don't want weird robot bugs. Real bugs are alright, sometimes. Depends on the bug. You don't know? I'm no expert in the field. I remember hearing about them once or twice. Tiny creatures with many legs, mouths more grotesque than you could ever imagine. Poisonous, crawly. Some of them burrow into flesh and lay their eggs inside of things. The usual. Wait, did they just make bugs not exist in the hologram world? Oh, a funny thing about that. In this society, they just like completely eradicated like all pests from existence. I don't know how they did that one, but like I don't know if they probably didn't just make bugs exist in the hologram world after they spent all the time removing them from the existence. I don't know, maybe like some research lab has some remaining bugs held hostage. Gonna start like a locust plague. If you keep moving your mouth, I won't be responsible for the consequences. My girl about to square up. Just gonna like punch him in the face. That's such a beta move. I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. As we moved farther down the mountain, I saw that more and more of the natural trees had been replaced with mechanical ones. By the time we reached the bottom of the mountain, there wasn't a natural tree to be seen. And we returned back to the peaceful music we vibe in now. Nothing bad is happening. After a little more walking, we got to the city center. Maybe because it was the weekend, the main drag was crowded with people from all walks of life. What kind of all walks of life you talking about? These people just wearing like the same outfit, and like half of them got the same haircut too. Like, and above them, the gravestone buildings of the mechanical city stretched out as far as the eye could see. The tallest tower, a bit of a landmark in our city, stood out like an obelisk with its crude holographic panels. Wow, they've got a serious gothic vibe going on with the decorations today. How romantic. Yeah? Unlike cities and countries of the past that put their unique architectural motifs on display for the world, modern cities weren't limited to a single style of building. They got the drip. What kind of drip? My man's be looking like he bout to drive a Formula 1 car or something, I don't know. Like, they got like the matching jumpsuits on. One day the whole city could be decorated to convey the beauty of traditional Asian architecture. The next day the design engineers could switch the facade to any number of classical or modern architectural styles. Whether it be some special citywide event, a marketing ploy, or a special holiday, there were many reasons for the city designers to switch things up. Don't you disrespect the Formula 1 drip? I think I will disrespect the Formula 1 drip. Just heard a car drive past in the game audio. Maybe it was the Formula 1. They're coming to get me for insulting they drip. Of course, for a blind person like me, it was the same graveyard day in and day out. Oh yeah, by the way, the people who can't see the holograms are called the blind. He's not physically blind. They also got rid of like any proper disabilities except for not being able to see the holograms. This was in like the prologue stuff. Weren't we talking about the Middle Ages yesterday? Is that why you decided to bring me here? Lucky. Well, now that we've arrived, I have one question for you, Madam President. What's that? What would you define as truly classic? Why are you asking me that? It was just like her to ask such a ridiculous question in such a serious way. Of course, I had only known the girl for a few days. There were probably a few sides to her that I hadn't experienced yet. Well, I've been defining classical as being able to experience the life of those who came before me. If she had defined it as anything that brought her closer to understanding that painting, I wouldn't have been surprised. Our goals today vary slightly. How so? That's actually depressing. He just stares at these bland buildings while everyone sees the most beautiful things. You're right. Like, I understand why this boy doesn't like being around and like walking around town. Like, if you just had to look at this and everyone else was like just absolutely going off with the sheer aesthetics and drip going around, I would be pretty sad about that too. Like, sucks. Just because the holograms have an old feel to them, it doesn't mean that we are feeling the way people did before us. You've got a point. She nodded her head, admiring my insight. In order to foster these classical sensibilities, we need to pay attention as we walk around the city, trying to get a sense of what has changed and what hasn't. Oh! Everywhere people live, they leave behind these little traces that they were there. As more people congregate in an area, there are more things they leave and things they throw out. So today I want to walk around and try and feel some of those things. We will start in the city center and slowly walk our way toward outwards if we have enough time. Surprising. What is? I had no idea you were so deep. It had all been from my mouth, but it was honestly just a decoration of the things Dr. Yuzin had already told me. I mean, maybe the artist painted the picture you like so much because they didn't want to lose themselves in all of these holograms. Yeah, that could explain it. So let's not fixate on the holograms as we walk. Instead, let's try to imagine a city without them. My boy ain't even got to imagine. He just looks and realizes that his reality sucks. Okay, imagine a world that no modern citizen could dream of. See the vestiges of life only the blind could see. If I could get her to recognize those signs for what they really were, she would finally be able to paint the picture she wanted to. If that were to happen, maybe she'll be able to recognize the world for what it really was. See it through my eyes, desolate and abandoned. But unlike me, she wouldn't have to experience the loneliness I had felt while walking through such desolation. She would have me as her guide. And she had that painting. This is the painting, by the way, that was about, like, just the school with no holograms that inspired the Shohyun. Also, unlike me, even after she understood the loneliness I felt, she would still see the world through the eyes of a modern person. She would merely be transformed into a better, more understanding person. But, like, we gotta respect people who go out of their way to understand others. Like, respect. She technically outranked me in the club, but I felt I was a little like I was the senior member training a rookie. Welcome to reality, kid. It's depressing. Quite impressive, Mr. Vice President. Chohyun's sudden outpouring of admiration made me feel a bit guilty. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I'm just kind of embellishing something one of my teachers taught me. Ah, that explains things. Ugh, shouldn't have told you. It's fine. I'm just happy to see that you've passed your teacher's lesson on to me. Must be quite the extraordinary teacher you've got. I could never tell Chohyun the truth about Dr. Eugene. Eugene. Jin? Words. Letters. Days, months, and years. That building is quite a bit shorter than the one next to it. The shorter the building, the older it is. Really? Why do you think that is? Just a feeling. Ugh. Boy, you gotta explain. What do you think there was before they built that giant skyscraper? I'm not sure. How small was the building that was there before? If we're going to try this, you've got to take it seriously. I am taking it seriously. There's probably a lot of history here. A long time ago, there was probably a house made completely out of straw standing right over there. Maybe that's a little too far back for these classical sensibilities, my guy. I mean, it is just a guess. Of course it is. Chohyun gave me a sidelong glance and a fake laugh as she considered the validity of what I had said. You're probably right, though. Buildings are always coming and going. Yeah, they sure are. No matter how much you dress them up on the outside, building need to be repaired and replaced over time. So are there any constants in a place with so many people? Depends on your perspective. What perspective? The building methods may change, but there are certain things about culture and customs that stay with us. Seems a bit contradictory. You're claiming that things are changing and not changing at the same time. Over there. That place says it's been in business for 100 years. Really? That's what it says on the hologram. I see. What do you think that building looked like 100 years ago? Now that's what I call awakening your sense for the classics. Ah, you think? What do you think about me starting up a business today and writing on the signage it's been in business for 200 years? With how old-fashioned you seem sometimes, I wouldn't put it past you. I don't think you're getting my point, but whatever. Are you implying that people would lie just to get customers? Never. Never. All of these tall buildings lined up in a row. They look like a bunch of dominoes. But to knock the city down. Again, with something I've never heard of? Dominoes are this kind of toy where you stand them all up in a line, push the first one over, and watch as they all fall down. Well, actually, there is a proper game you can play with dominoes, where it's like a numbers matching game. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty fun. I've played it a few times, but like, a lot of people just use them for knocking down stuff. What a disturbing thought. Are you planning a terrorist attack or something? See, she understands why it's not good to call a bunch of buildings dominoes. It is fun. It is fun. And like, no one does it. Like, just like so few people actually play like proper dominoes these days. I wonder if there's like an online like net game of dominoes. Maybe I could stream that one time. I'm just telling you what they remind me of. But the holograms are displaying a rather romantic view of clock towers and old-fashioned brick buildings. What exactly are you looking at? You could play dominoes with bricks too. We walked all the way to the center of the city, our steps marked by playful banter. Walking through the city still gave me the impression of a graveyard, but walking through with Chohyun made things feel a little different. Everything looked the same in my eyes, but to her it was also different. I think we've seen everything this place has to offer. I agree. Before we knew it, quite a lot of time had passed. We'd done nothing but walk around and take in the sights. If we'd stopped for a bite at one of the restaurants or popped into a few of the more interesting looking shops, the day would have been over already. Difficult, even though a lot has changed between then and now. Does she not know my man is blind? She doesn't know, and I don't know how she hasn't like caught on, because like my man's been saying some like pretty obvious things, but he is trying his best to keep it a secret. Oh, you should have seen what the food looked like. There's actually a glossary I can show you probably. Let's just save this right here. Save that as main save file. I just closed the entire game. I'm very smart. Alright, that was... We don't need to talk about what just happened. Let's go. Extra content? Was it tips? And we're looking for food. Food. Modern food. Okay, that doesn't show the images. But basically, yeah. Modern food is mostly comprised of artificial ingredients like GMOs and have been altered much at the genetic level. Since these foods are colored and shaped using a holographic overlay, they don't look much different from food in the past. However, underneath the... Oh, I just closed it. Strange colors, underneath those holograms, the strange shapes and colors of the food give it a monstrous, grotesque appearance. The only dishes that look truly edible without the hologram overlay are those prepared with natural ingredients through a more traditional style of cooking. However, growing and preparing food this way is extremely inefficient. Thus, similar ingredients have an enormous price gap, and the natural classic methods are Only used in the most upscale of restaurants. That type of stuff. Yeah, it's nasty looking. If I could like find some photos of it, it would be in like past scenes. Which day would it even be in? I wouldn't know. If I can find it, I'll show you on the next stream. But like, for now, let's just Oh wait, this is gonna take me right back to the very start. I should probably load my actual save. It's hard to spot the differences. Yeah. People in the past had enjoyed walking the streets of the city like this. From that feeling alone, I was able to see what Dr. Yujin had been getting at with this assignment. Something that hasn't changed. Chohyun was locked somewhere deep in her mind. No matter how much researched and discussed, this area was just too newly built and well maintained. It was hard to spot any trace of the past here. They may have looked slightly different on the outside, but it was hard to see which buildings were newer or older based solely on appearance. Ooh. You want to start heading towards the outskirts? The outskirts? Yeah, unlike the center city, the buildings there are more neglected and run down. What a great quality to refer to the buildings as. Yeah, we should go there because like everything's falling apart and it's awful. Let's go. We'll see. We waited at the bus stop for a ride to the outskirts of the city. It wasn't familiar with many of the bus routes, so we waited for the bus I normally took to the hospital every morning. Except for the special cases like me, most city dwellers would never need to go so far from the heart of the city. You know, back when they first made buses, people would act as a door and hold people inside. What? What? You're not going to fool me with that one. I'm serious. When there were so many people riding the bus that they were in danger of spilling out, one person would act as a door and hold everyone inside. Oh yeah, I guess some of the buses don't have... Some of the older buses, like trolley buses, like don't... They have like railing stuff and it's weird. A person can't be a door. We're not robots. You've never heard of a doorman? I don't think that's what a doorman is. Aren't those the people who work at hotels and such? Honestly, I'm not too sure. Like, guys, have you ever... Like, people just don't do that. Doors existed. Like, when buses were made. Like, most buses have doors. Like, there might be, like... If you go on some of those, like, triple-decker, like, buses, they do have railings over the top, and if there was too many people, they could fall off of that. But, like, you don't really have a door person for that. Well, it is kind of nice to know that people back in the day rode buses, too. The doctor had said that some of the things in the city never changed, but did that extend to transportation as well? When did all public transportation become automated, though? You mean it wasn't before? People operated all vehicles back in the day. Lies. When would the drivers have time to eat if they had to drive all day? Why would there be the term driver if there was no one driving? Chohyun let out as she saw the contradiction in her question. Language. Huh? She started mumbling to herself like she was trying to piece a few things together. Yeah, that's right. I remember learning that language changes with each successive generation. You're finally pretending to be an honors student. I'm not pretending. I am an honors student. What percentile do you fall under, Mr. Vice President? She'd shut down my argument with a single statement. Anyway, about language. When you really sit down and think about it, there's nothing as amazing as language. There's nothing as annoying as language, in my opinion. How so? The language we speak and write today, it was created generations ago. That's true. If you think about how long languages have stayed with us throughout the ages, it really is amazing. I mean, like, people ain't just gonna, like, stop speaking. Well, actually, I don't know. Without technologies going in this universe, they might just, like, instant transmit their thoughts to each other with no language. You don't think they have? I think you might want to cancel your application to the Honor Society. You think? It's like this. It was obvious that Chun had quite the brain on her, but she was a bit behind. She was a bit lacking in the imagination department. Return to monkey. True. Return to monkey. No speak, only monkey. It's not just that language is ever changing. Parts of languages come and go. The overall backbone of a particular language may not shift drastically, but on the vocabulary level, words are made and lost all the time. Words are lost? It's called an obsolete word. As we stop using words in data space speech, they slowly start to disappear. Do we consider defenestration obsolete? Because, like, no one uses it in regular conversation. They keep saying it just because they want to, like, meme about it. But also, why does that word exist? Why do we need it? Who invented it? Who thought we needed a word to throw someone out of a window? Why? That gives me goosebumps. Depends. Goosebumps, really? Yeah, I've never thought about that before. Really? And it's enough to give you goosebumps? When people don't use words, they simply disappear. Because of the Bohemians. They threw 3/4 of people out a window? What? What? A 30-year war came out of... How have I never heard of this? I'm gonna have to read up on this after my stream, like... 3 to 4... Ah. Why? Why? Why did they do that? So it goes. I can't explain why, but something just disappearing like that, it's unsettling. But like seriously, who did they throw out of a window to start a 30-year war? How does such... How? I can't explain why, but something just disappeared like that. It's unsettling. Even when words don't disappear, it doesn't mean that they're unaffected by time. What else can happen to them? Important religious guy. Well, I mean, I guess if you're throwing someone out a window to cause a war, it would be someone like important for like a country or a religion. As time goes by, definitions of words can change as well. Blindness and the blind were two good examples. Yep, just because a word stuck around, that didn't mean the definition stayed the same. Whatever that definition was. Then I could be using words that had different meanings before without even knowing it? Exactly. How do you know all that? If you pay attention when you're looking up words in the dictionary, you can see the old definitions underneath. I had found out most of that through my time researching the blindness. It was a great way to expand my knowledge base, but it had a depressing side to it as well. My blindness had led me to learn of all the things that most people didn't need or want to know about. Really, it feels like more things have changed than have stayed the same. You think so? For some reason, I felt like we were getting farther and farther from our goal. I mean, at least she's recognizing the change. Ain't that like the whole point of this? Realize that the world's like hella different from how it is? Or something? I don't know. The bus we had been waiting for pulled up at the bus stop. How was Cho Hyun gonna react to the different look of the city? I was looking forward to seeing how it all played out. Ain't this just like an actual photo of a building, just like with a filter put on it? Or did someone actually paint this? Cause like, it just kind of looks like a real photo. After a while, we arrived at the outskirts of the city. Normally, I would be heading straight to the hospital for my appointment with Dr. Yu Jin. So I didn't know much about the area except for the overall look of the place. To my dead eyes, there was no mistaking the stark difference between this place and the city center. In contrast to the well-maintained city center, the buildings in the outskirts seemed like they were left behind, unable to keep up with the flow of the city. The clues hinting at its neglect were scattered here and there. You could still see buildings that seemed to predate those of the early 21st century. People had continually remodeled the interiors of these buildings, copying whatever style was popular in the city, while leaving the exteriors as they were. After covering them up with their holograms, it was hard to distinguish these buildings from the ones in the heart of the city. But since these buildings were shorter than their urban counterparts, would the holograms take on a different look as well? Even though the maintenance drones carried out their work here too, oiling and scrubbing down the various surfaces, hints of rust still remained on traffic sign lights and other signs. The only time a modern person would ever see rust would be if a hologram was trying to make a place feel old and decrepit on purpose. That was just how things were. Cho Hyun must have been getting a little tired because she stumbled a little as she got off the bus. This is your first time coming out this far, huh? Yeah, it's so far by bus, and I have no real reason to come out here. Was there anyone from the city who came out here as often as I did? This place was far less crowded than the city. It was hard to even compare the two places until they both existed under the same dome. Wait, dome? You tell me these cities are like domed in, or just like the same area? Like boy, y'all got domes? Because knowing this, it's possible. It wasn't a stretch for a person like me to mistake this place for the ruins of some great city. However, to a normal person who could see the holograms, it would be no easy task to feel the incongruity that existed between the two places. What would Cho Hyun think after seeing this place? There seemed to be a melancholy hanging in the air as we walked along and took it all in. As we walked among the aging buildings, it felt as if Cho Hyun and I were the last two people on this earth. Strange, huh? Rather unexpected. What's strange? This place. It's all the same through the holograms. Yeah, they don't look too different on the outside. Then what's the problem? Is it just me? It feels like we're walking through the ruins of some old city. Ruins? Sorry, did I hurt your feelings? No, I don't live here or anything. Yeah? Then why would you ever come here? Well, what had I expected? It was still far too early to tell Chohyun anything about my blindness. No matter how understanding she appeared to be, the blind had to keep up that wall. I was bored and had nowhere else to go. I looked around at all of Chohyun's ruins as I answered. It was just a word, but the fact that she described it as ruins, the same word that I had always used, made my heart skip a beat. Aww. She touched his heart. He's so happy now. This really is the end of the city. But even if you wanted to escape, you can't. Chohyun nodded in reply and walked on. Look there! She was pointing over at an abandoned railroad track that stretched off into the distance. I had no idea those things were still around. I never thought I'd see an abandoned railway outside of a movie. Me neither. How about it? Want to walk along the tracks? Gets hit by a train and dies. Not a bad idea. We hopped over a little wall and walked towards the tracks. Anyways, we get to see the funny protagonist man standing here. And child, Chohyun. Keep looking at the bottom right corner of your PC. Uh, the notifications? What are you about to do? What are you about to do? Wait, have you already done it and I just missed it? I'm scared. Taffy, what are you going to do? We walked along the tracks in silence for quite some time. Normally there'd be a hologram sign warning people away from such a place, but Shohyun's silence gave me no hint whether she had seen a warning or not. In the silence, the only sounds were the... It didn't show up, that's tragic. The only sounds were the rocks shifting under our feet and an occasional ping as a rock bounced off the tracks. Strange. What is? Okay, can we just talk about... This is like a beautiful looking shot. Like, damn. Except for this guy's like weird suit. Like, I don't know. The suit just kind of like feels weird. Booted up the game that was... He booted up Honey Pop, damn. It does look really well drawn. Like, there aren't a lot of images, because like, this game is like, probably made on like a very steep budget, but like, the art is like amazing looking. I do gotta admit. I've been enjoying it so far. Like, if you wanted to see the rest of it, I do have the past VODs up. Yeah, but like, it's a nice game. It was definitely worth the like $5 I paid for it when it was on sale. She had a point. Even in the outskirts of a city, a place like this was an odd sight. Also, the signs of neglect were apparent every which way I looked. So why was this place still here? You think a search would turn anything up? Want to try? No, later. I just want to walk right now. Okay, let's just walk then. As the sun began to set, our shadows stretched behind us like long black tails. The sun's going down. Yep. Past or present, the sky hasn't changed much throughout the years, has it? I guess not. Honestly, that was a straight lie. Modern people never saw the actual sky. All we could see was a fake sky displayed over the dome on the dome over the city. Blind or not, no one saw the real sky. Okay, so it is just covered in the dome. That's sad. Actually tragic. But still, I didn't feel there would be much difference between looking at the sky and feeling like you were looking at the sky. At least that's what I told myself. Lies. You know that's fake. You know that? I may not know as much as you do, but I know my fair share. Sorry. No need to apologize. I understand why you said what you did. You do? Of course. We're both looking at the same thing. But were we? Were we actually seeing the same thing? Modern cities were full of lies. The holograms, the world around us, even the sky above. It was nothing but a picture displayed on a dome. But no matter how much the world tried to deceive us, at that moment we were seeing the same thing. That I had been stumbling around looking for all this time. It was neither truth nor lie. I was merely looking for someone to stand next to me and see the same thing I saw. I had been looking forward to meeting someone like Shohyun for so long. The truth I found up in that sky warmed my heart. At that moment, in that place, we were seeing the same thing. Someone was finally seeing what I saw, and that person was right here, beside me. Finally, I didn't need to be lonely anymore. Hey. What? Have you found what you're looking for? Something to appease my classical sensibilities? Whatever you want to call it. The something that hasn't changed? Right. I'm still not sure yet. You? I feel like I might have found what I've been looking for. Really? Yeah. Of course, you're as in touch with the artistic side as I've always imagined you were. I just skipped over some dialogue. That sucks. No I didn't actually. But you're the... Mwah. I don't know why, but I wonder how the equivalent of Brazil is doing in this universe. Probably, like, the same, because, like, the whole of society is supposed to be, like, carbon copy, but I don't know. Maybe they do different things in different domes and we just don't talk about it. But data travels fast and everyone's the same or something. So, interesting thought though. But you're the president of the club and you haven't found what you're looking for. Is that okay? Uh, Shohyun's head dropped in shame. Well, when I'm with you, I get the sense that I'm getting closer, but I'm not quite there yet. Interesting. Why do you sound so disappointed? I just thought that today we were finally feeling the same thing. What same thing? Mr. Vice President, what's on your mind exactly? The whole day we'd been searching for something that hadn't changed. I still hadn't come with anything that really fit her criteria, but taking in the view with someone like you, that seems pretty timeless, like something that hasn't changed through the years. Someone you like? Yeah. Who is this person you like so much? Girl, girl, girl. Who? Who do you think? Who do you think it could possibly be? I had rarely seen Cho Hyun look so surprised. I was shocked that she couldn't get what I was implying. As oblivious as you, huh? Well, sometimes some people just don't get the hints. Are you asking seriously? I guess I am. Stop stalling. Just tell me. It's you. Huh? I said it's you. Hear that piano come in. Aw, she's blushing. What do you mean? What do you think I mean? I like you. Chohyun stood there with her mouth open for a time. Damn, my boy confessed fast. It's been what, 7 days? But I told you, I like someone else. But that's not a romantic kind of like. It's more out of admiration. I guess, but Chohyun let out a long groan as if something wasn't sitting well with her. Had I really caught her off guard with all this? You didn't catch on to the fact that I like you? Sorry. Maybe I was just imagining things in the fading light, but it seemed like she was blushing as she said that. Look at her face. Like, my girl about to turn into a tomato. Or maybe it was just the colors of the sunset. How long have you liked me? Well, what? What's more important, when I started liking you, or why? Okay then, why did you start liking me? I think it was right when you said that we could see the same sky. And under that same sky I had realized that I had never wanted anything more than that. At that moment I had finally understood that all this desperate searching had brought me to this moment. A moment that would finally soothe the loneliness I had felt for so long. But I said that just a few seconds ago. True. What's that supposed to mean then? Only then did Shohyun's stiff expression break into a playful smile. So you figure out you like me and then just blurt it out? It takes time for a person to really sort out their feelings. It's been rolling around for a while now. Then when did you realize you had feelings to sort out? Well, maybe it was the first time I laid eyes on you. Or? From the moment I was born. Damn! That's a bit much. Yeah, I'm with Cho Hyun on this. Saying from the moment you were born, a bit weird. Cho Hyun snapped out of the romantic spell she'd been under, shooting me a chilling glare. Sorry. It wasn't like it had been easy to tell her what I was really feeling. With all the hopelessness that came with the word dating, my expectations hadn't been too high coming out of all this. So, what about you? That moment felt like both a heartbeat and a lifetime as we stared into each other's eyes. Then she looked away. For some reason, she seemed to be having a hard time looking at me. Are you blushing? You... She stopped short of answering again. Seriously? What's wrong? It just doesn't feel like us. No, I hate you. Imagine she just pulls the 180. Did I accidentally skip dialogue again? No, I didn't. Okay, good. I see what you mean. We had never been completely comfortable around each other. Let's go. Go where? Somewhere that's more us. With that vague answer, we headed out. I'm heading out. So, what are we doing back here again? We need to calm down and reflect on the results of our trip around the city. Chohyun seemed like she was trying not to make eye contact with me as she said that. Results? The whole reason we went on that trip. Have you forgotten already? It was basically just a club activity, right? Right. But didn't you tell me that you still haven't found what you were looking for? The thing that hasn't changed? You're right, I haven't, so I need to paint. Like every day that had come before, Chohyun set up her canvas on an easel and got out her oil paints. She picked up her brush and began painting the same thing she always did. Ever since she had seen that painting, she'd been following its style, hoping to meet the artist through her work. Maybe her finding that painting was just one. Okay. Maybe her finding that painting was just one step down the road to finding some deeper meaning she was searching for. She had described the painting as a life-changing piece and a token of her unrequited love. Maybe she was like me, and this painting by one of the blind was her way of wandering, in search of someone. Just like I had been searching for someone like her, maybe she had been searching for someone special to her. Well, we all have our fair share of delusions. Maybe I had been a little delusional in confessing my true emotions to her. Hey, quiet down, Jillian grumbled over at me, her eyes never leaving the canvas. Something about that was simply adorable. As that thought bubbled up into my mind, the muscles around my mouth took a mind of their own. Suddenly I was smiling, without knowing exactly why. As she painted, I gazed over at her as I tried to wrestle back control of my expression. Mr. Vice President. Yeah? When you start painting, what do you think you'll try to paint first? Um, you haven't thought about it? Honestly, I haven't really wanted to paint until today. The blindness had made using modern art tools all but impossible. Without the sunglasses, I couldn't create a thing. But in coming to this classical arts club, I had found a way that even a person like me to paint again. But it still didn't feel real. I had this feeling that wouldn't go away. The feeling that this place was an illusion meant just for me. I couldn't get over the haunting suspicion that it was all one big fantasy that could disappear at any second. On one hand, I was afraid of getting attached to this place. I was afraid that this place and the girl in it would disappear at any moment. But things were beginning to change. I was starting to realize that my fear of her disappearing was just like the fear I used to have of never meeting a person like her. I was just this weirdo who was caught up in his own expectations, intimidated by the thought of getting into that first relationship. But now, I finally had a hope more powerful than that fear, and looked forward to spending time with Chohyun. And now, I want to paint everything. Everything. I mean, when we are together, everything seems so good. Don't take this the wrong way, but you need to approach painting more seriously. Um, it was good to be able to spend time with her. But what was I going to spend that time doing? That was the problem. What could I paint during our time together? Then, until I find something I really want to paint, I'll just paint whatever. What do you mean by that? You keep painting the same thing because your only goal is being able to paint something just something like that. Yeah, that's kind of right. So until I find something I feel passionate about, I just want to paint whatever I can find. That was what you did. Chohyun stopped painting for a second and looked over at me. Ugh, you make it sound like it's weird for me to obsess over a single painting like this. I'm gonna be honest, girl. It kinda is. Like, no offense, but like, it's a painting. That's not what I meant. Alright then, I'm finished anyway. Really? What's you really supposed to mean? Shocked by my reaction, she spun the canvas to face me. The same world she had painted again and again was laid out on her canvas. From your reaction, I guess it isn't that good, huh? No, that's not it. Tell me the truth. I told you to be honest when speaking about art. She might have told me that, or she might not have. Honestly, I don't see much of a difference from the ones you've done before. Of course you think that. You say of course like you were expecting that response. I was. Chohyun nodded as she took her canvas off the easel. No matter how many times I paint this, I never get any better. I've just been doing this because I thought it was the only way to get closer to what I wanted to paint. Aren't you being a bit too critical? I'm just being realistic. Despite the self-deprecating remarks, her face seemed to settle into a look of acceptance. It was as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She spoke like someone who had hit her limit. But if anything has changed since meeting you, it's something deep inside. Inside? Yeah, I've gone on and on about classical sensibilities, but I'd never really given it any serious thought until I met you. Something about our meeting flipped a switch inside. Half of me wanted to chime in with my own feelings, and half of me was curious about what she meant by that. Honestly, I couldn't remember saying anything great or profound. The only time I had said anything good was when I was repeating the words of Dr. Yu Jin. What about you? Have you changed since meeting me? Well, there were things that had changed remarkably, and other things that hadn't changed at all. The blindness hadn't gone away. I'm not really sure. I know what you mean. We both let out a little chuckle. It seemed like we had both realized something, but weren't sure exactly what it was yet. About that painting, about ourselves, and about each other. But there's one thing I'm pretty sure of. I think we need each other. Need? We don't even know ourselves that well, so maybe having someone to help out would be for the better. What? I'm just saying that we should keep helping each other out. Ooh, bright white. As she said that, my vision started to waver in and out. It felt like the whole world was shifting in front of me. But it wasn't the whole world that was changing, it was me. So, do you want to try your hand at painting? With a visible glow in her cheeks, Chohyun handed me a brush. I still wasn't sure which things had changed and which hadn't. Honestly, the list of things I was sure about was quite short. But with her, I felt like I could know about things I couldn't see with my own two eyes. I had this hunch that she was going to be my eyes into a world I couldn't see. It was probably a good hunch, after all. My perspective on the world had been changing ever since I had met her. I took the brush from her hand. I felt a warmth from the brush go into my hands and deep inside of me. What are you going to paint first? That's a daunting question. Why? Because I've never actually held a real brush before. As I stared at the blank canvas in front of me, a groan escaped my lips. I still want to see what kind of skills you have coming into this. Paint whatever you want. Don't get angry at me if I waste one of your new canvases. And with that one final excuse, I began moving the brush against the canvas. Without even thinking about it, I began drawing the desolate world as I saw it. Then, like magic, a flood of light from the brush she had given me began to illuminate the canvas. The colors inside of her began shifting my world. Here and there, the desolate world started to find its old colors. No, I opened the thing again. Even though I knew that it was nothing but ruins staring back at me, that knowledge couldn't stop my heart and soul from crying out. The desolation cried to me, asking for me to transform it into a thing of beauty. Somehow I knew that the colors weren't coming from the paints on the brush, but from something deep inside. The barren wasteland that I had seen for so long was the true face of this world, but I had long since come to the conclusion that the only thing that made people different was the way in which they viewed the world. People in general weren't all that different. Their perspectives, their genders, and their values may all be different. But there was something inherently good in how people interacted and accepted others into their lives. It made me realize how self-righteous I had been in refusing to interact with anyone else. Maybe Chohyun had gifted me a little of that good inside her when she had handed me that paintbrush. My world was slowly changing. As my brush traveled across the canvas, spreading its color here and there, it began slowly unveiling the world that I had forgotten. The fairy tale space I had inhabited for so long was slowly collapsing in on itself. The ruins standing at the outskirts in the city, the bleak rows of gravestones that made up the city center. In its place, a shining modern city was coming to life on the canvas in front of me. The photos are becoming unblurry, and they're gaining illusion holograms. Is he regaining the ability to see or what? We all saw the world a little differently, but there was still only one of it. It was such a simple fact, but one that was so hard to realize. My hand in the brush, it suddenly felt so heavy, grinding to a halt. But then there was another hand to support it. As I looked over, I saw the owner of the hand watching me, a smile lighting up her face. Look at that, Mr. Vice President. You've got some skills. As if her hand was leading my own, I began to paint something that was not from our world. It felt like the wall that had separated me from the world for so long had already been torn down and carted off. As that feeling became more and more real, my hand felt so light that I was convinced I had sprouted wings. From the second her hand had touched mine, I felt a new truth take hold deep down. I really do exist in this world. He's smiling. Look at how happy he is. Extra story 1 unlocked. Watch in the extras menu. What? What the? Did I just. Was that it? What? I just. Huh? What is. I, I just. It just ends after that, and I unlocked an extra story. Extra contents? Extra. Oh, it's the epilogue! So that's the end. Alright. I guess that's the end of the first run. Let's finish up the epilogue, and I guess that'll be the stream. Uh, One afternoon after class was over, we stuck around the clubhouse as per usual. There's a very important matter we need to vote on today. What's that? Chohyun had just been painting as she always did when she suddenly broke the silence, calling for a vote. As she did, I could see her face was filled with a sad determination. What is it? We're out of money. Huh? Our club funds, all of it, dried up. With exaggerated motions and a loud wail, she snatched up her stool into a hug and started pouting. The whole action was so clumsy and melodramatic, it reminded me of Picasso's The Weeping Woman. The scene was so chaotic it seemed closer to a problem of geometry than one of human emotions. Is that right? How about you show some concern here, Mr. Vice President? I put down my brush and palette and made my way over to her. About the funds, then. Many things had happened since Chohyun had set up our club. It had been a long journey getting the teachers to call our little cabin an actual clubhouse, submitting all the necessary documents and attachments, and then finally being recognized as an official club so that we could get funding. Each step of the way, a blind man like me couldn't help but be a little bit frightened with her audacious behavior. In the words of Pierre de Fermat, the margin is too narrow to explain. I had no idea how she had pulled it off. So then, why did I feel tears welling up in my eyes? Didn't you tell me that we were getting money from the school? I thought we could save the funds and use them when we needed them, but we've simply been painting too much these past few months. As if we had planned it out, we turned at the same time to survey the interior of the clubhouse. In one corner of the room there was a small mountain of canvases wrapped in paper. It was our collection of all the paintings we had done in the past few months. It was hard to count how many there were from where we were standing. Wouldn't it be better to throw some of those out? We could reuse the stretcher frames at least. But that's our legacy right there. Do you know how much just the finishing varnish on all those costs? Do the math. We can't just throw them all away. More like a legacy of failure. Haven't you heard of the old Asian proverb, failure is the mother of success? That saying looks good on paper, but some of those paintings are filled with cracks because we messed up so badly. We didn't even know the fat over lean principle of oil painting first. They're not even failures, we had no idea what we were doing. Ugh. Our paintings had been lessons in trial and error, a hundred ways over. As we tried and tried again, there were definitely a few paintings we had to call real failures, works that couldn't be saved no matter how many times we tried to modify and redo them. Still, it wasn't all bad, right? That was how we tried to convince ourselves as we packed up each other of our mistakes and stored them away in the corner. But these days, every time I looked over and saw how much space they were taking up, I kept thinking to myself, we should have just trashed them all. Anyway, let's put that aside for now and focus on the more important issue, our complete lack of funds. With us painting so freely and carelessly, I guess we were bound to run out of money. It was a necessary expense. We needed to practice and improve. I don't think so. It doesn't feel like a very efficient use of resources for us to just keep painting without any knowledge of proper technique. True, but there wasn't that much else we could have done. The art club advisor said he didn't know anything about traditional forms of painting. He's our club advisor too, you know. He's our advisor by name alone. The real advisor is standing right in front of you. Me, the club president. I am the Classical Arts Club. Besides, if I call myself an arts major but I can't draw or sculpt, then what's the use? Well, these days nobody really uses the traditional techniques that we're practicing. But if you're going to teach history and culture of art, don't you think you should start with the more classical styles? They can do classical drawing and paintings in 3 dimensions now. There's really no reason for people to practice all those traditional techniques. It didn't really matter the name of the major. With how prevalent 3D art was these days, it was natural for fewer people to study these outdated techniques. And with how expensive the materials were, there was a barrier to entry that would keep most away. Couldn't you search the cloud for some kind of classical art simulation program? Not interested. Even though we're broke? It's just not the same if you're not using your own 2 hands. Stubborn as ever, we're all artists like this. I do have to admit that we don't have much of a foundation to build on. Yeah. You're a complete beginner, and I know I can be a bit reckless. I'm sorry, beginners make mistakes. Since we're just wasting all of our materials, how about we try something besides oil painting? Like what? 1 second. Chilian dug through a pile of supplies for a while, finally emerging with a tattered box and a bundle of new brushes. Here, this'll work. Chilian confidently handed the old box out for my inspection. On the front of the crumpled box, I could barely make out the faded letters. Poster paints? Exactly. What are those? I think these ones are like watercolors. We had messed with oil paints for so long and we're suddenly moving to watercolors? These are a lot cheaper than oil paints. Why don't we save up the oils for a little while and work on the basics? I'm pretty sure how you use these 2 is quite different though. We aren't the Classical Oil Painting Club. We're the Classical Arts Club. Let's give it a try, Mr. Vice President. At this point, I didn't feel anxious about starting something new anymore. And the paintings we're working on now? That's just a waste of oils at this point. Use these. It says these are water soluble. Oh, really? I think putting a layer of these on top of the oils is just going to make one big mess. Let's give these a try. I've already gone through all the trouble of finding them. It sounded like she just wanted to try them out. I guess it's not a bad idea. Since they're water soluble though, we're going to need water to rinse our brushes, right? We need to find a few extra containers. What about the buckets we used for cleaning off the oil paints? The ones with the solvent in them? Not sure that's a good idea. Yeah, you're probably right. I feel like I've seen something that would do the trick laying around. I have too, but I'm too tired to rummage through all that stuff again. I'll look for it. Big cup. Finding a jar, bucket, and all of the mess of supplies was a lot harder than I thought. After a minute or two, Chohyun joined in the search, and we were able to find a few clean jars, some extra poster paints, and a real set of watercolors. I was pretty happy with myself after finding it all, but I looked at the train wreck that our clubhouse was, my smile faded. How are we supposed to organize all this stuff? How about we just paint for now? Great problem solving. Alright. Of course, the best plan of action was to hand the problem off to our future selves. Felt like the best course of action at the time, at least. Do you know how to paint with these things? Well, it can't be that much different, can it? I got my palette ready and opened one of the jars of poster paints. As I unscrewed the layer and took off the top, I saw a thick layer of white specks. Ah! What's wrong? Mold. Don't bring it over here. How did mold get into a brand new set of paints? I bought them second-hand. I had no choice. The new ones were so expensive. The condition of the box was starting to make sense. A bunch of warning messages are popping up everywhere. Her electron corneas must have a warning system in place for dangerous substances like mold. You want me to check some of the others? I opened up the jar and found the paint as dry as a desert. After a thorough check of all the paints, it was clear that one whole box was completely useless. We threw that box to the side and picked up a box that looked the cleanest on the outside. Well, let's open one up. Yep. The squeak of the lid cut through the silence that was hanging over the clubhouse. It's okay. Great to hear. With a joint sigh of relief, we started getting water and paper ready for our journey into the new world of painting. Okay, let's give it a try. Let's. What was this feeling? As my palette knife touched the canvas, something felt off. Is this right? I'm not sure. After a few minutes, each of us was starting at a horrible, indescribable mess of color. It was such a sticky mess that I wasn't sure if it would ever dry. I think we missed a step. That's a given. Ugh. Chohyun let out a little groan and started swiping her finger through the air. She must have been looking something up. How long was she going to scroll through the air like that? Ah! She let a little yelp as if she found something. What did you figure out? These paints, we're supposed to thin them with water. I guess the water isn't just for cleaning our brushes. Then everything we've done up to this point, we just wasted a bunch of paints again. Ugh. I wasn't sure why she went straight to anger, but the rage in her voice was unmistakable. Now that we know, we have no choice but to start from the very, very bottom and work our way slowly up. She reached her hand out wide and made broad, sweeping motions. I couldn't see what she was doing, but she must have had quite the hologram in front of her. Wow. Don't just sit there, Mr. Vice President. Help me search. About that. She wanted me to search the cloud with her, but there was nothing I could do without my glasses. I'll cheer you on from here. Go get him, Madam President. It was my role not to see. Alright, huh? As I was about to reach out and feel the paints on the canvas, I'd abandoned. Chohyun let out a shout. What did you find? I found some really good tips. Let's try them out. With a sparkle in her eye, she strode back over to the pile of art supplies. As she grabbed something from the pile, she triggered a little avalanche. I could feel the entropy of our clubhouse slowly increasing. There was this ache in the pit of my stomach every time I thought about the monumental cleaning task that lay in front of us. Okay, ready to start? Her face lit up with excitement. What are we starting with exactly? A frottage? A fro what? That's what I'm saying. What is that? Just watch. Trayan held out her fist in front of her as if she was about to do a magic trick. She opened her fingers, unveiling a little coin. Wow, a coin. How did you dig that relic up? I snuck it out of one of the city's fountains a while back. I need an interesting motif for a painting. Why do you look so disappointed all of a sudden? What are you planning on doing with that thing? A what now? That's what I don't know. A frottage? Frottage? Frogage? I don't paint. I don't know. Watch this. She put the coin under a piece of paper and began rubbing over it with a pencil. Like magic, the exact image of the coin began to appear on the page. Wow, that's pretty cool. Right? I want to try. Go ahead, we're going to be trying out a whole lot more. The feeling was strangely new, somehow different from all the sketches I had made in my sketchbook. The scratching of the pencil against paper echoed throughout the clubhouse, making me feel all warm inside. Uh-huh. I couldn't believe how simple it was. It was strangely fascinating. You can make a whole work of art out of just this. If you're done messing around, you want to try and move on to the next thing? The next thing? Already? Mr. Vice President, we have quite the schedule to stick to. From the ocean of information I just looked through, I've devised quite a curriculum for us. Well, apparently she had stumbled upon some textbook on classical art techniques. Next we have, Sure enough, she made a scrolling motion and her eyes began darting back and forth, as if she was reading something. Next, right. Decalcomania. Deca, huh? Just pay attention. Chohyun laid out a new piece of paper and splashed a bunch of paints every which way with her brush. Hey, you're making a mess. It didn't look like she was hearing a word I was saying. All done. That was quick. You're already done? I went in for a closer look and saw that only half of the paper was covered in paint. You said you're done, but the paper's still half empty. Give me a second. With a confident chuckle, her eyes went wide. Ha! With a little yell, she folded the paper in half. You're folding it now? Wow, what a waste of a piece of paper. You really don't know the implications of no more funds, do you? Maybe all the fumes in the oil paint made you a few colors short of a set. Are you calling me crazy? Of course not. Stop blabbering and take a look. With the same look of confidence, she unfolded the piece of paper. Ah, I see. As she spread the paper back out, a beautiful image unfolded in front of my eyes. The paint from one half had transferred to the other side, creating a pleasantly symmetrical work. Wow, the steps are a little weird, but the finished product is gorgeous. Right? One sec, my turn. After that, we spent quite a while working through all the fundamental art techniques Chohyun had found. We spilled a bunch of watercolors on a piece of paper and spread them around. We sopped up a bunch of paint into our brushes and throwed them over a piece of paper, spraying colorful droplets every which way. We filled a spray bottle with a diluted paint mixture and went to town. We drenched a canvas in paint and wiped parts back off with a sponge. We tore sheets of paper to pieces and pasted them back together. We even covered a piece of paper in crayon and scratched designs into the colored backgrounds. We were so wrapped up in our art that we couldn't tell how many hours had passed. By the time the sun was about to set, our bodies, our clothes, and even part of the clubhouse was covered in paint. It was a total mess. Hey, Chohyun. Yeah? How are we supposed to clean this all up? Also, isn't this kind of strange? What? How can I explain? All of the chaotic work that we'd spent so much of our time on had held its own strange kind of enjoyment. However, when the excitement passed and I looked back at everything we'd accomplished, I realized that excitement was rather empty. A thought was sitting there on the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't figure out how to put it into words. Something's missing. I feel it too. Are you sure that all of this is laying a solid foundation for future works of art? We used up a ton of supplies dabbling in this and that, but I don't feel like it helped us understand me to under ugh, like any of it helped me understand oil painting or watercolors. You've got a point. The futility of all this playtime suddenly hit us, and we both sat there in a stupor. Sounds fun. Suddenly Chohyun popped up and started scrolling again. A strange look slowly crept over her face. What's wrong? Everything we just did. What a troubled look. She scratched her cheek and continued. It all came out on a children's book on art. Ooh. Oh, that's tragic. How about we get to cleaning then? Yeah, let's do that. We started cleaning here and there without another word. After cleaning enough that we could call the place tidy with a clear conscience, we left the rest to the drones and headed out. It was a children's book. I remember thinking that it was all rather fun in its own special way. Right? But with how expensive all the supplies were, it was a rather extravagant type of fun. The paints and paper alone. Right? How much money do you think we used up back there? Maybe 2 or 3 months of club funds? That much? Those paints are cheaper than oil paints, but they're still quite expensive. Despite us following a children's art curriculum, with all the fun we'd had, I could hardly complain. Yeah, even when you follow a children's checkbook, if you price out, it's a rich man's game. Yep. It was no wonder we were acting like children back there. We had basically reverted to elementary school students for a day. Still, Mr. Vice President. Yeah? Why did we stop with the oils and follow a children's textbook anyway? Yeah, why did we? For some reason I felt like I shouldn't try to remember. Let's just stay positive. About what? With about all this art stuff. These days, you never hear anyone talk about the things we did back there, right? By the time we're old enough to have children, we'll probably be the only people who can teach them about those kinds of activities. Was it just my feeling, or had she gotten really quiet all of a sudden? What's wrong? Nothing. Her response was a little out of character. Did she take something I said the wrong way? Yes. You just said you'd be the only people capable of teaching your children that kind of thing. How is she supposed to take it? How? How else is she supposed to take that? Like, damn. Anyway, you would let babies play with pain? Why not? It would probably make them sick or something. Yeah, you might be right. Having children. I can't even imagine. Yeah? Yeah, there are tons of childless adults these days. That's true. Babies. That's all way too far in the future for us to be talking about it now. Yeah, plus you gotta think about marriage before you start thinking about kids, right? I looked away for a sec. Yeah, now we're talking about marriage and children. Things progressed very fast in their relationship. Marriage. What kind of person do you think you'll get married to? Well, come to think of it, this wasn't exactly a good topic for us to get into. Don't be like that, spit it out. With an odd excitement in her smile, she leaned close. You first, who do you think would be a good match for you? What kind of person, huh? I think you already know the answer to that, Mr. Vice President. Ever since I told her that I liked her, I kept seeing this villainous little smile pop up onto her face every once in a while. You're not going to answer? Well, maybe if she was here now, this person next to me. She might be the person I wanted. But my answer was stuck in my throat. I think... Right when I was about to say the answer, I felt something touch my lips. It was her finger. What are you doing? It's fine. You don't need to answer. She lowered her finger. You're sure? Yeah. Why? Because I think I already know the answer. Damn. She flirting. As she said that, a big smile spread out across her face. And I guess that's the end of the game. So, yeah. I also just closed the game again by accident. Anyways, thank you for coming out to the stream today. Looks like there's 2 other endings other than this one. So, who knows? Maybe one day I'll play that. Gotta make some different choices, I guess. But anyways, thanks for coming to the stream today. That's all for today, and I'll see you in the next one.